So Destiny is facing an influx of returning players with the announcement that there would be no more updates for the game. If you haven't played since the final shape or that content year, then you're probably very lost. Don't worry, because today I'm going to take you through the changes we've seen throughout the Year of Prophecy, so let's get to it. The portal is the biggest change. Simply put, the portal is a selection of activities with varying difficulties and is the primary way in which you grind your power. You've got different categories which cater to different fireteam sizes. There is of course a category for Crucible as well as a category for Pinnacle activities. That is where you'll find various exotic missions as well as seasonal activities are on the longer end, such as the Whisper mission or the Coil from Season of the Wish. Different categories in the portal reward different gear, and exotic missions do reward their exotic weapons, including catalysts on repeat runs on harder difficulties. Another part of the portal is the seasonal hub. You've got the overview section, which has weekly challenges, a weekly reward pass, and orders, which are basically bounties. Then you've got the Vanguard alert section, which has a selection of activities from the portal, but they have weekly challenges with unique loot, which can give you a leg up in your power grind. The Grandmaster Vanguard alert is basically the equivalent of a Grandmaster Nightfall. Finally, you've got the conquests, which are basically various activities with specific modifiers, and they get harder and harder. The first time you complete a conquest, you gain a lot of gear and a lot of power. You need to complete them all if you want to gild the seasonal title, which is the old title for Grandmaster Nightfalls. As of right now, the portal is front and center in the game instead of the world directory. But with the June update, it makes its return with the portal being part of it. Now the next biggest change is tiered weapons and armor. Weapons and armor under the tiered system can drop as tier 1 all the way to tier 5, primarily depending on your power. For weapons, different parts such as the masterwork, barrels, and all of that will be enhanced depending on the tier. The higher the tier, the more perks you get per column. At tier 5, every part of the weapon, as well as the origin trait and mod, will be enhanced, and you get a unique cosmetic. For armor though, each tier has a range of stats, with higher tiers having higher ranges, until tier 5 where you're guaranteed to have the same total stats each time. Also, armor stats are now different. We have the following: health, melee, grenade, super, fast, and weapons. They now go up to 200, and when you're above 100 in a stat, you get an enhanced effect. For your health, it increases your regeneration speed. For your melee, grenade, and super, you deal extra damage. For your class, you gain an overshield when using your class ability. And for weapons, it's bonus damage against bosses and extra ammo from ammo bricks. With these changes to the armor stats, your armor now has archetypes which determine where your stats go. Each archetype has a primary and a secondary stat. Your primary will be the highest stat on the armor, the secondary will be lower, and then you have a random stat which will be lower than your secondary stat. At tier 5, you'll gain access to the tuning mod slot, which lets you take away 5 stats from one stat and give it to the stat that's tuned, which is a random stat. You can equip a mod on your ghost if you want your armor to primarily drop as that archetype, though it's not guaranteed, it just gives you a better chance. While we're on the topic of armor sets now have their own perks. Similar to how gear sets work in the Division, having 2 or 4 pieces of an armor set will grant you a set of perks. For example, having 2 pieces of Ferropotent armor grants you the perk Rapid Repair, so when your shields begin to regenerate, you gain flinch and damage resistance. Finally, there are 3 new weapon archetypes in the game: Micro Missile Pulse Rifles, High Impact Combat Bows, and Heat Weapons. The Micro Missile Pulse Rifles are low ammo special weapons that shoot rockets instead of bullets. At the current moment, they are amazing for damage and beat any other special weapon any day. Now, high impact combat bows are basically crossbows, but the amazing thing is that you can collect your ammo after shooting. Outside of a damage rotation on Hunter, these really aren't a boss damage weapon, but they are generally very strong and you can reuse the ammo. Finally, heat weapons are the most unique addition. Instead of having a magazine, these weapons have a heat system. Shooting generates heat, and if you overheat, you need to vent the weapon before you can use it again. There are 2 types of heat weapons, balanced and dynamic, and they each have their own benefits. These weapons are currently exclusive to the Renegades DLC, but hopefully they'll expand them to the main game in the June update. And with that, those are all the major updates that you need to know about to be caught up. I hope you're enjoying your return to the game and have a great time in the June update. Thank you for watching, have a great day.